The earth is home and all abundant, source of what was before we were, and will be till our life unending. The final seed shakes in its birth. She is our friend, our ancient mother. Her fate and all her ways are ours. Each atom proves our common journey, bred as we were of dust and stars. We suckle from the fountain Tyre,
Good morning. We ring this bell 3 times. The first is to call us into relationship with the earth and all those who once called this a sacred place and a sacred relationship, and those whose culture preserved it, protected it, and passed it on to become what most of us now call home. We ring the bell a second time to call us into relationship with ourselves, one another, and the interdependent web of which we are a part. May it inspire us to live harmoniously with all living things. And the third is to call us into relationship with our children and our children's children out to the 7th generation, helping us to remember that what we do now or what we fail to do will be felt by those who come after us.
Good morning. I'm Paul K. Davis. I'm serving as worship associate this morning. Welcome to Mission Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation. Many of us have just celebrated or mourned Earth Day yesterday or the day before. And yesterday, my mentor, Professor Marshall Dixon, was laid to rest. Marshall, or Dr. Dixon, as I addressed him the first decade of our connection, introduced me to higher mathematics, to science, to earth, and more. There's much I could tell you about this person, whom I came while living 2,000 miles apart to phone on Father's Day. I wish to relate this morning what specifically connects this wonderful earthly environment in which we live. It's one thing to learn in school that Earth orbits Sun. It's another thing which reaches a new level of depth to derive the equations for Earth's orbit from Newton's laws of gravity, which Dr. Dixon ably taught. It is yet again another thing to travel the entire Earth, far beyond one's familiar neighborhood. 3 years after meeting Dr. Dixon, he took me with him on a tour around the world, visiting England, Kenya, South Africa, Mauritius, Australia, and New Zealand. I experienced the reversal of seasons in the Southern Hemisphere. I saw that each area has its unique set of animals. We visited parks where we, not the animals, were the ones in vehicular cages. We visited a coral reef, an entirely different ecological realm from any on Earth's surface. Upon returning home, I could say that not only had I learned Earth was round, I had verified it myself. At Butler University, where Dr. Dixon was a professor, I chose his field, physics, for my degree. He urged me on to graduate school, and I headed to Berkeley. There, in the research lab of Dr. John Reynolds, my knowledge of the extent of Earth turned to its age. I can now say I measured the age of the solar system, 4.5 billion years, myself, from radioactive potassium. I have also calculated the future of our sun, another 4 or 5 billion years, from fundamental laws of physics. Unfortunately, I cannot predict what people will do to our Earth. It grieves me when people deny global climate change. They say they've done their own research. I know they have not, because I know from my own life what is involved in doing genuine scientific research. And not only do we face the slow death of willful environmental destruction, we face the quick death of nuclear war, made possible by my own profession of physics, but made probable by national leaders like Kim Jong-un, Donald Trump, and Vladimir Putin, who would rather destroy nations than accept proper limits on their ambitions. But I do believe there is hope. As Marshall Dixon sought to teach mathematics and physics to as many eager students as he could, we must seek to teach the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, combined with respect for the worth and dignity of every person, to as many as we can. Please join me in worship today as we celebrate our Earth.
One more time, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Mission Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Melissa Holmes, and I'm a member of the board. Unitarian Universalism is a radically inclusive, non-doctrinal, non-dogmatic, open-minded, and open-hearted faith. We are people who are coming at truth from different paths. We gather together across different identities, experiences, and beliefs to affirm and promote the inherent worth of every person. Together, we see our job is to love the hate out of this world, to heal the hurt in ourselves and one another, and to be the change we would like to see in this world. We use chat in Zoom or our Joys and Concerns book by the welcome table to share joys and concerns, personal milestones of importance, which will be read aloud during the service. Maybe you're here for the first time. We've been reaching out and asking people to bring their friends because we think the world, especially now, needs some friendly places to gather and find encouragement and hope. We have a social hour after the service where we get to visit with one another, either in the patio if you're here on Cole Hall or in breakout rooms on Zoom. The worship host will give you more information if you're on Zoom immediately after the service. In the meantime, we put a link to our weekly newsletter in the Zoom chat so you can see all the events coming up. We encourage you to join anything that speaks to you. We also put our welcome email, welcome@mpuuc.org, in the chat, and you can use that to request a newsletter or have other information sent to you. There are a few things that I'd especially like to call your attention to. Attendees should be masked inside and outside of Cole Hall during the service, preferably with N95 or KN95 masks, which are more effective than cloth masks. We have such masks at the welcome table in the back. Please help yourself if you need one. Eating and drinking are only allowed outside of Cole Hall, outside. And please do not attend inside Cole Hall if contracting COVID-19 is an unacceptable risk for you or the people near you. More information about all of our safety policies can be found on the bulletin board to your left if you're in Cole Hall or in the Week on the Peak. I have a few other announcements that I'd like to call your attention to. Baseball Sunday is May 15th. After the service, people who are interested in attending an A's baseball game will gather at the Oakland Coliseum. We'll be watching the A's play the Los Angeles Angels. Tickets are $27 each, and you can purchase them online. There's a link and more information in Week on the Peak. Please note that tickets must be purchased by the end of the day this Tuesday, April 26th. There is a Peace and Climate Justice Rally on Thursday, April 28th from 5 to 6 p.m. It'll be at Walnut and Paseo Padre, and it's sponsored by the Tri-City Interfaith Council and Compassionate Fremont. Also, there's an Interfaith Yom HaShoah service on Sunday, next Sunday, May 1st at 7 p.m. at Temple Beth Torah. Pre-registration is required by Friday the 29th, this Friday. You can find more information about all of these items in the Week on the Peak. Please also remember to silence your electronic devices. Lastly, if you hear or see something in this morning's service that inspires you or makes you laugh or brings you hope, please tweet it or share it on social media or just tell a friend. We are trying to start a wave of love and justice with every gathering. Thank you for joining us.
Please join with me in reciting these words, which call us together as a community and with Unitarian Universalists all across the globe. We light this chalice to remind ourselves to treat all people kindly because we are all one family, to take good care of the earth because it is our home, to live lives full of goodness and love because that is how we will become the best people we can be.
If there is one topic we should agree on, it is this. Earth is a living organism, and if it dies, we die. I picked my nephew Tommy up from school last week. Usually a happy kid, but today Tommy had a frown on his face as he walked to the car. As he got in the passenger seat, I said, "T, what's wrong?" He said, "Uncle, why don't people get it?" I said, "Get what? What do you mean?" He said, "The need to take care of our environment. It's so obvious." I said, "Well, break it down for me." He said, "Trees clean the air, man builds factories, factories poison the air, man destroys trees, man breathes the air, man dies." Wow. And after I picked my jaw up off the ground from hearing one of the most profound statements from anyone, let alone a 9-year-old child, I said, "Then I guess factories will rule the earth." We both awkwardly laughed. And later that night, I couldn't help but contemplate Will this truly be humanity's fate? Shall we be the accomplices to our own destruction, victims of our own corruption, ambition, and overconsumption? Like a man addicted to drugs, every society thinks it can't happen to them. Until it does. We are the most advanced species to ever exist. But sometimes I wonder if some future alien culture will look back on us as nature's failed experiment. Evolutions could have been. You know, like that basketball player everybody said was better than Jordan, but never reached his peak because he got caught up in the streets? Will we be another example of wasted potential? I don't mean to go existential, but every day corporations sell millions of smartphones, smart TVs, even smart water. But smart people seem to be constantly on back order. Maybe that's an oversimplification or an understatement. Nonetheless, the fact remains that we human beings make machines to fix problems that we created. Everything we do is overcomplicated by design. I mean, there's 19 damn ingredients that go into McDonald's fries. My God, why do we choose greed over need, profit over people, price over cost, sufficient over efficient? If this is the quintessential definition of intelligence, then where can I sign up to be primitive? I remember when my science teacher told me that asteroids were the cause of extinction. Today it's us. Thanks to man-made climate change, 100 innocent species go extinct every day. Yet many continue to deny it, refusing to take an honest look at the science. Well, to you skeptics, please, allow me to analogize it. Close your eyes and imagine that you're on a plane with 100 pilots. 97 of them say, we are headed for disaster if we do not change course and reroute it. 3 of them say, they're all lying, it's a conspiracy. Don't worry about it. Even if you believe those 3 pilots are correct, wouldn't you take precaution anyway, just to hedge your bet? Well, this is the same situation we face with climate change. 2,000 scientists in 200 different countries have concluded the same thing, that we are on a crash course for devastation. And if we do not pump the brakes, spaceship Earth won't make it. The time is now, we cannot delay. If you were on the Titanic and you could see the iceberg in advance, wouldn't you try to move the heck out the way? It is too late to be pessimistic. It is time to innovate. It is time to stop fighting the old system and start creating a new system where we support organizations and technologies that not only have sustainability, but thrivability as the endeavor. We will get out of this mess like we've always gotten out of things. Together. Togetherness is the solution we require. And once we realize the power we have together, for the second time, mankind will have discovered fire, and he will shine bright as a species in all of his brilliance, finally arriving at an equilibrium.
We are very pleased to welcome to our congregation Elaine, who is representing, serves as president of LEAF, and will tell us a little bit about our Share the Plate this morning. I also wanted to give you a little heads up. Today is the first day in maybe a couple years that we're actually taking an offering, so those buckets of cash that you brought with you, get those handy. The baskets will come around in just a second. Elaine.
Good morning again. I wanted to actually thank Lorna, Janes, and Bruce Katz, and Allison, and Reverend Greg for inviting me here this morning. Oh, hello. Sorry. I'm wearing it so often now I forget. So I have a little slideshow because I think a picture is worth 1,000 words. And so the first slide is Stone Garden. So Stone Garden is a garden over near, in Fremont, believe it or not. It's one of the hidden gems. It is over near Maui. And this is what it looked like in January 2014. And then in March of 2014, we actually had a partnership with this congregation, Leaf and Dr. Stone, who had the land, and we joined together and we started creating Stone Garden to produce vegetables. And so what has happened is this started And 6 years later, we need to go the other way. Thank you. 6 years later, this is what it looks like. And you really should come by and see this garden. It is beautiful. Spring is the best time. You will see bees, you will see flowers, you will see just an abundance of crops starting to grow. And the good thing is, yes, we have a lot of produce year-round now because that's how we're working. We have a lot of different varieties of produce because we want to be able to serve 2 different food banks now. We do one in Union City and one in Fremont. And so we want to try to do different types of vegetables to make sure that we're serving a lot of different types of ethnic people. So this is what it looks like. When we started in 2014, with your help, that's how we started. We harvested about 1,000 pounds of vegetables, and last year we hit the 6,000 mark, which we were extremely excited about. Some of this also comes from gleaning, so we're encouraging people to glean their trees, donate it to us so we can donate it to the food banks. So the other thing that happened to me, so this is the philanthropic part. The other part that happened to me personally was 2017. There were so many anti-environmental acts. You guys know all these. We got out of the Peace Accord, Paris Peace Accord. We started rolling back a lot of the green energy, not the green energy, Clean Power Acts. We had slogans like drill baby drill. I mean, it was just really depressing. And I remember lying there in November thinking, I'm depressed, I'm frustrated, and I said, wait a minute, you're wasting energy. What are you gonna do to make this change? And so what I did was I decided that I'm going to activate myself to activate the community. And we started Earth Day, Leaf Earth Day. The first one we had, so this was in November, and by April 22nd, in that time frame, we actually created Leaf Earth Day. I called all the other environmental people I knew, and we had over 600 people visit Earth Day in our site. And it was the most wonderful thing because we shared what we could do to change things, little habits that we have, buying less plastic, trying gardening, but we garden with healthy soil. We do healthy soil, so these are scientific-based regenerative agriculture practices. So we did all this stuff. I started working on getting kids in, so we did field trips to Stone Garden from homeschools. We actually had more workshops to teach people how to build healthy soil. And we actually had classes, and everyone loves to try to do bees, so we actually have bee classes where kids came in. We put very safe, so they can learn how to go into the hives and actually pick up frames. So this is what the Gardening for Good program is. It's all about teaching one another, oopsie, sorry. What about teaching one another what we can do, all the little things that we can do to help mitigate climate change. And that's what our garden is doing, and I really would like to reach out to you to see, because you guys have helped us so much to build the garden and to continue all this education. We had Earth Day yesterday, by the way, with the City of Fremont and Washington Hospital, and I think we had over 1,000 people come. And we had 2,300 packets of seeds, we had lemons, we had plants, and it's all gone. So everybody really, really wants to do all this stuff, and it's so encouraging and rewarding that all these positive, I call it positive environmentalism, is actually working. Because I think all of us have all that energy to give to one another, to try to teach each other how we can go forward. And I know this church really believes in the same thing, so I think it's really, really great that I'm here today to actually ask you to help continue on helping and sharing the plate. So thank you so much.
We are grateful for the support this Mission Peak community in supporting LEAF and making a real difference in the community by providing good, healthy food to hungry families, as well as teaching about the cooperative and sustainable growing practices. Your gifts, please, in your checks, put LEAF in the memo line if it's for LEAF. Put pledge in the memo line if it's for MPUUC, and ash in the offering basket goes to LEAF, And those of you on Zoom should have instructions up on the screen. Yes, you do. You can donate, mail your check. We're a little bit confused this morning because for the first time in 2 years, as Reverend Greg mentioned, we're actually collecting an offering instead of doing it all by mail or by dropping in our box and so on. Thank you for partnering with this LEAF, and thank you all. Your contributions help spread the love of this congregation out further into the community and make a difference for the earth and its people right here in Fremont. Thank you.
One of the things that allows us to find hope and meaning to continue to go forward, even when we feel discouraged, to do the good that we can do, is when we partner with the loving people in our community who know our hearts and can lift our spirits. If sharing a joy and concern with this community might bring some resilience or hope or energy, we encourage you to write your joy or concern into the chat if you're with us online, or into the book, and we will read those aloud so that we can carry one another forward in the week to come. If your joy or concern is more personal and you would like a conversation, please contact Reverend Barber or myself, and we will be happy to partner with you. If you would like to drop a stone in our stone garden during the music, please come forward. These are the joys and concerns that are alive in our hearts today. Our first joy is for that beautiful rendition by Shauna Pickett-Gordon, which brings a lot of beauty to an already beautiful song. And a special joy for the celebration of the installation, which took place this morning, of Alex Jensen as the new settled minister of the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Grand Traverse, Michigan. We have a very special joy for our new member of the congregation, who is Noodle, a 9-week-old Shar-Pei Pug mix who has now been adopted as the congregational service dog, and now everybody suddenly needs service. And finally, one last stone for all the hopes and hurts still too tender to escape our heart. May, for the sake of love, we keep our doors, our hearts, our minds, and our arms open.
Fun fact, planet Earth is 4.5 billion years old. Mankind, about 140,000 years old. Let me put that in perspective. If you condense the Earth's lifespan into 24 hours, that's one full day, then we have been here on this planet for, drum roll please, 3 seconds. 3 seconds. And look what we've done. We have modestly named ourselves Homo sapiens, meaning wise man. But is man really so wise? Smart, yes, and it's good to be smart, but not too smart for your own good. Yes, we have split the atom. Yes, we build clever machines that navigate the universe in search of new homes, but at the same time, those atoms we split created nuclear warfare. In our quest to explore the galaxy, rejects and neglects the home that we have here now, so no, that cannot be wisdom. Wisdom is different. While intelligence speaks, wisdom listens, and we willingly covered our ears to Mother Nature's screams and closed our eyes to all of her help-wanted signs. Wisdom knows that every action has an equal and opposite reaction, so if we were wise, we would not be shocked when we see storms that are stronger than ever before, or more drought, hurricanes, and wildfire than ever before, because there's more pollution than ever before, more carbon, more trees cut down than ever before. At a record pace, we have increased the extinction of animals by 1,000 times the normal rate. What a feat. In the next 10 to 100 years, every beloved animal character in every children's book is predicted to go extinct. Lions gone, rhinos gone, tiger, gorilla, elephant, polar bear gone in 3 seconds. Species that have been here longer than us will be gone because of us in this 3 seconds. In an existence shorter than a Vine video, we turn the circle of life into our own personal conveyor belt. Somebody, anybody help. We were given so much, the only planet in this solar system with life. I mean, we are 1 in a million. No, actually, scientifically, we are 1 in a billion, trillion. That's a 1 followed by 33 zeros. And I don't want to get too spiritual, but how are we not a miracle? We are perfectly positioned to the sun so we don't burn, but not too distant so we don't turn to ice. Goldilocks said it best. We are just right. This paradise where we are given medicine from trees, not coincidentally, but because, like the song says, we are family. Literally, everything, every species is connected genetically, from the sunflower to the sunfish. And this is what we must recognize before it's too late, because the real crisis is not global warming, environmental destruction, or animal agriculture. It is us. These problems are symptoms of us, byproducts of us. Our inner reflection, loss of connection has created this misdirection. We have forgotten that everything contributes to the perfection of Mother Nature. Corporations keep us unaware and disconnected, but they have underestimated our strength. Contrary to popular belief, millions are waking up out of their sleep, seeing our home being taken right up under our feet. We cannot allow our history to be written by the wicked, greedy, and loony. It is our duty to protect Mother Nature from those who refuse to see her beauty. Call me crazy, but I believe we should have the right to eat food that's safe with ingredients we can pronounce. Drink water that is clean, marvel at trees, breathe air free of toxins. These are natural rights, not things that can be bargained for in Congress. See, they want you to feel powerless, but it has been said that something as small as the flutter of a butterfly's wing can cause a typhoon halfway around the world. Well, when enough people come together, we too will make waves and wash the world into a new era filled with love and connection, freedom for all without oppression. But it is up to you, yes, you watching this behind this screen, to make the effort, because time is of the essence, and only together can we make it to the 4th second.
You think you own whatever land you land on, and that the earth is just a dead thing you can claim. But I know every rock and tree and creature has a life, has a spirit, has a name. You think the only people who are people are the people who look and think like you. Oh, but if you walk the footsteps of a stranger, you'll learn things you never knew. Have you ever heard the wolf cry to the blue corn moon, or ask the grinning bobcat why he grins? Can you sing with all the voices of the mountain? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Come run the hidden pine trails of the forest. Come taste the sun-sweet berries of the earth. Come and roll in all the riches all around you, and for once never wonder what they're worth. The rainstorm and the river are my brothers. The heron and the otter are my friends. And we are all connected to each other in a circle, in a hoop that never ends. Have you ever heard the wolf cry to the blue corn moon, or let the eagle tell you where he's been? Can you sing with all the voices of the mountain? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? How high can a sycamore grow? If you cut it down, then you'll never know. And you'll never hear the wolf cry to the blue corn moon, for whether we have white or copper skin, we need to sing with all the voices of the mountain. We need to paint with all the colors of the wind. You can own the earth, but still all you'll own is debt until you can pay
big thank you for that anthem for Nudie Van Hoven and Paul, who helped put the video together, and Joanne. I want to start by acknowledging for all of you who know, certainly Elaine, how hard it is to be a faithful environmental activist today. Being an activist, or simply just even loving the earth, will mean that you will see things and you will learn things that will break your heart, including a chronic level of hand-wringing, denying the problem, or denying responsibility, or a sense of arrogant entitlement to excess and feeble excuse-making why honoring the earth doesn't matter. I would like to tell you about some of this heartbreak and what I've learned to help me move through it and to continue the work. My first conniption around heartbreak was in 1976 when I was 14. My high school earth science class presented a section on the environment, and the teacher asked us to write about what we believed was happening to the earth and what we were going to do about it. I was a sensitive kid, especially anything having to do with violence or anything that hurt innocent or good people. And it left me with a sense of anger and disillusionment that I could neither express adequately nor console myself about. And it was especially true about anything having to do with war or our country's preoccupation with assassinating our leaders. But still, nothing prepared me for the despair I would experience around the slow and steady violence we were collectively seeing regarding the earth. I was 8 in 1970 when the first Earth Day came about. I attended a large demonstration with my church. I was somewhat impressed that we made such a big deal about something that we had all just accepted was necessary, but tragically not happening. But even then, I wasn't sure whether any of that hoopla would make a difference. But in 1972, I saw the commercial. You know the one. Indian man, Iron Eyes Cody, who actually wasn't Native American, but that's a whole different story, dressed in traditional Native outfit with a feather in his braided hair, paddling a canoe through a littered waterway with factories spewing pollution in the background. He lands on a shore covered with empty bottles and cans, only to gaze wistfully onto a busy highway with cars racing by, and a passing driver throws trash out the window that lands at his feet. And when the camera pans around and looks into his face, you see a single tear falling. Yes, that was cultural appropriation and emotionally manipulative, but I didn't mind. It was the perfect fuel for my budding teenage angst. And the message came through loud and clear. We inherited all of this, land, water, sky, from a culture and people who for generations treated it all with devout reverence and took their obligation seriously to pass it on in a healthy way to the 7th generation after them. And in a remarkably short time, we trashed it. Fun fact, planet Earth is 4.5 billion years old. Humankind, about 140,000 years old. To put it in perspective, if you condense the Earth's lifespan into one 24-hour period, a full day, then we have been here on this planet 3 seconds. Now, if we were to really be fair and honest, we'd have to admit that some generations within the last 140,000 years had a slightly greater impact than others. Our earliest ancestors, for example, certainly impacted the environment in which they lived, but their impact was pretty local, right? Animals that they hunted, land cleared for settlement. What we call modern civilization is the first to have an impact well beyond their local footprint. Our burning of fossil fuels has released enough greenhouse gases to raise the global temperature on the planet by a full degree Celsius. May not seem like much, but it has radically changed weather patterns. It has produced more severe storms and floods and droughts and fires. It has also raised the temperatures in our oceans, killed coral reefs, changed whale and fish migration patterns, affected reproduction, melted polar ice caps. Every day, an average of 150 species goes extinct. That is up to 10,000 times the expected background level. That is the impact of humankind. Now, I didn't know all of this when I was 14, but I did see how pollution could get really bad and look really ugly, especially in the poorer sections of town. And it was at this point that it occurred to me that this growing mess would become my problem, my responsibility, in a very short time when I became an adult. So the assignment that I was getting from my earth science class at school, asking me what we were going to do about it, left me a little angry. Because the real truth is that I wanted to punt, to refuse receipt of the whole damn dilemma. You created this problem, you fix it, I thought. And yet, because I knew there was nowhere else to go, I knew I could not abstain. Despite the fact that my gift for self-righteousness and moral indignation were far more developed than my penchant to deal with self-sacrifice and heartbreak, I decided I needed to do something. But there was also another truth. By 14, I was beginning to feel somewhat morally invested. I had somehow formed a rather inconvenient and non-negotiable personal relationship with nature. By 14, I realized that whenever I found myself in the woods or at the beach or on a lake or in some sort of natural setting, there was this voice that just sort of spoke to me. It was always speaking in kind of calm, unifying tones about the undeniable, interdependent truth of our symbiotic coexistence. I am you, you are me, we are the walrus, all that blah, 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 which normally I could ignore, but then when it called that voice of Iron Eyes Cody into the picture to cry at me, then it was all over. But the hardest part, without a doubt, was the blue marble. The blue marble, maybe you have seen it, is this picture taken in 1972 by the crew of Apollo 17, the last human-operated mission to the moon. My earth science teacher gave us each a postcard and told us to write our response to the earth. It felt suddenly like I was placed before God and asked to explain myself. And I couldn't very well just ignore all the harm being done on the planet, explain how it wasn't my fault. This picture made it so that Earth was no longer some distant, vast, ongoing thing. It was my day-to-day. It was limited, defined, fragile. Whatever agreements or arguments I might make about my innocence seemed petty compared to the incredible need being expressed by the earth, especially when that need determined the fate of future generations. My paper turned into something of an apology and a pledge to do better, to do what I could, but I still felt a little bewildered and outmatched and pretty pissed off, to tell the truth, at all the knuckleheads ignoring the problem or making it worse. My next conniption came a few years later in college, in a class on muckraking journalism, which I highly recommend, where we read Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring. Silent Spring was a dystopian, began with a dystopian fable for tomorrow, which tied together composite examples of all real-life pesticide use that had caused widespread damage to wildlife, bees, birds, agricultural animals, domestic pets, even human beings. The book was serialized in 3 parts in The New Yorker, where everybody read it. It was instantly the most talked about book in decades. President Kennedy even talked about it. Carson spent over 6 years documenting her analysis that humans were misusing powerful, persistent chemical pesticides before knowing the full extent of their harm. She advocated for the protection of living creatures and the planet itself, and she implored human beings to see themselves as stewards of this living system of which they were a part, suggesting we needed more global regulation of environmental standards. She put people over profit and called for an environmental revolution condemning corporate hubris, financial self-interest, and political corruption as the crux of the problem. And President Kennedy was not the only one to have read Carson's work. Wisconsin Senator Gaylord Nelson used this book when he went out on tours to educate people and politicians about the mounting problems environmental apathy was bringing. The public responded with amazing passion. Politicians, not so much. Frustrated by this, Senator Nelson adopted the most effective strategies that were being employed at that time for protesting the Vietnam War, and he took his message out onto college campuses. That was incredibly effective. In 1969, he announced plans for a nationwide demonstration to take place the following spring. 20 million people showed up for the very first Earth Day on April 22nd, 1970, leading to the government finally taking notice. And within a year, the Environmental Protection Agency was formed, and the Clean Air, Clean Water, and Endangered Species Acts were passed. Reading about this gave me hope. And for a brief moment, it gave me some belief that things could change. But environmental violence continued, and it even got more extreme. Oil spills like Deepwater Horizon and the Exxon Valdez, alongside nuclear meltdowns like 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl, kept popping up with devastating impact and little accountability on the corporations who were profiting from it. I struggled with despair and wondered what besides my own self-righteousness and resignation would constitute an appropriate response. My third connection came to me while in seminary, where I studied the theological underpinnings of humanity's covenant with God regarding stewardship of the earth. That's where I came upon this little ditty. Genesis chapter 1, verse 28. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. It wasn't the first time that I'd heard this, but it was the first time that it actually dawned on me how the most egregious and callous of industrialists took this as reckless license to act like environmental turd heads. I did a little research on this fruitful and multiply thing. Here's what I found. At the time that Genesis was written, approximately 3000 BCE, there were probably about 4 million people on Earth. We grew to be 5 times that by 2000 BCE, and 5 times that in the next 1,000 years. We did not reach the 1 billion people mark until the year 1800, roughly 142,000 years after humans appeared on the planet. It took us only 127 years, in 1927, the year before my parents were born, to reach 2 billion. It took us only 33 years after that, the year before I was born, to reach 3 billion. In 1974, a year before my first conniption, we reached 4 billion. In 1987, a year before my second conniption, we hit 5 billion. I graduated seminary a year before we reached 6 billion. And sometime next year, 2023, we will hit 8 billion people on the planet. We really took that be fruitful and multiply thing to heart. The other thing we took to heart was the part where we were told to subdue the earth, have dominion over the fish and the fowl and every living thing that moveth. Is it just me, or have we translated this whole established dominion over the earth thing into serial warfare and colonial conquest? The only thing that's changed is that it is no longer nations subduing, exploiting, extracting, and profiting. It's corporations. And no matter where the lines are drawn on the globe, it's always the earth that pays the greatest price. Somewhere in the mid-20th century, when natural predators were eliminated and diseases were under control, we seemed to lose any semblance of moral restraint in our pursuit of progress and profit. And when nothing was left to oppose us, we started turning on ourselves. We are consuming the earth like the goal is to use it up. By damming, polluting, and over-extracting rivers and lakes, we've reduced the size of freshwater populations by 80%. Half of the fertile land on Earth is now farmland. 70% of the mass of birds on this planet are domestic birds, the vast majority of them chickens. Humans account for over 1/3 of the weight of all mammals on Earth. A further 60% are the animals that we raise to eat. The rest, from mice to whales, only 4%. Our dominion has turned into a planet run by humankind for humankind. There is little left for the rest of the interdependent web. The real crisis is not global warming, environmental destruction, or animal agriculture. The real problem is us. All these problems are symptoms of us, byproducts of us. Loss of connection has created this misdirection. The question is, in the midst of this bleak picture, can we change and redirect our future? Eco-theologian Joanna Macy describes what we're wrestling with as the great turning. She calls it the essential adventure of our time, the shift from the industrial growth society to a life-sustaining civilization. The ecological and social crisis we face are all caused by an economic system dependent on accelerating growth. Our self-destructive political economy sets its goals and measures its performance in terms of ever-increasing profits. In other words, by how fast materials can be extracted from the earth and turned into consumer products, weapons, and waste. But a revolution of the brokenhearted is underway because people are beginning to realize that our needs can be met without destroying our planet. We have the technological knowledge to do this, and I will show you that in a second. But technology by itself will not save us. There are 4 parts that I've heard Joanna Macy describe that are essential before we can leverage the technologies that are available to us. First, we have to fall in love with the earth again. Have someone give you a picture of the blue marble and be amazed. And we have to fall in love more than we're in love with what we gain from cannibalizing it. Second, we have to work through our disappointment, through our desperation, through our despair, instead of being paralyzed by them. Working through our despair will fundamentally change us, but the planet cannot change until we do. Third, we will learn to see the work and one another in new ways. That means seeing everything, earth, animals, people, as sacred. Nothing is expendable. And finally, when we get around to the work, we will see that it includes a lot of political legislation, a lot of legal work, as well as direct actions like blockades, boycotts, civil disobedience, and other forms of social change. At that point, when we are willing to embrace all of that, these are some of the technologies that we will find useful. The technology already exists. We have communication tools and material resources to grow enough food, ensure clean water and air, and meet rational energy needs. The earth is extraordinarily resilient and will heal and detoxify itself if we give it a chance, by giving it time where we are not cannibalizing it for profit. Future generations, if there is a livable world for them, will look back at this epic transition that we are now making to become a life-sustaining society, and they will call this the time of the Great Turning. This week in our midweek discussion group, we talked about how we can learn about the world's needs without needing to destroy it in the process. Someone brought up how scientists were now employing new technology for fighting COVID by measuring the viral content of the poop coming out of our sewers. That's all well and good, I said, but the problem we're facing with the hubris of ecological destruction is the poop coming out of our head. But they say that something as small as the butterfly's wing can cause a typhoon halfway around the world. When enough people come together, when enough people join in community, find common cause, work together on projects like Stone Garden, work to raise our own food and feed the people in our immediate community, when we come together like that, we can make waves too. But it's up to you. It's up to us. And time is of the essence. Only together can we make it to the 4th second. Let's go together in that direction, to the glory of life.
wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrims soul, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, ever great winds urging me on. Greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Please join me in reciting these words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Friends, reach out with one hand, put the other hand on your heart, and say thank you to Graham, who does a fantastic job inserting all of the videos and all of the tricky things like that, sometimes at the last minute.
Thank you, Graham.
And see yourself in this great interdependent web of life. Pledge to show up. Strive for gender equality and education, one of the single greatest ways that we can move forward into a sustainable world. Put people over profits. Make it your personal mission to walk reverently and gently alongside of all life. And be a good ancestor to those who will inherit your home when you are done. Do all of these things and go home and root for the Warriors. Amen, and blessed be.